Chapter 37. Ben stood in the doorway like someone had unplugged him mid-stride. Frozen. Silent. Malfunctioning. His shoulders were locked so tight they looked carved from stone. His jaw clenched hard enough to crack teeth. His eyes were wide and glassy, fixed on Sky like she was the only thing keeping him upright. He opened his mouth once. Closed it. Tried again. Nothing. Just a soft, broken inhale that didn't go anywhere. Sky whispered, "Ben." That finally shook something loose. His voice cracked out, raw, wrecked, barely holding together. "Kid, you scared the hell out of me." He didn't move after that. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe right. Just stood there, completely frozen. Downstairs, Ernie and Letty exchanged a look over their coffee. Letty whispered, "He's up there with her." Ernie nodded. "And he's frozen." Fred walked back in through the kitchen door, coffee in hand, pretending he hadn't just escaped through a window. Letty pointed upward. "He's locked up." Fred sighed. "I'm not going back in that emotional box." Ernie smirked. "You don't have to go in. But you're coming up." Fred didn't deny it. He just muttered, "Fine." All three started up the stairs, coffee and all, because there was no universe where they were missing how the big man was reacting. Halfway up, Ernie stopped. His head tilted. His eyes narrowed. He listened. A low, eager rumble echoed from below. Letty blinked. What was? Ernie whispered, "Move." Fred didn't question it, he stepped aside instantly. Letty scrambled out of the way. Ernie kept his voice low. "Shadow's reading emotions. He's locked onto Ben." Letty's eyes widened. "Oh no." Ernie corrected her gently. "Oh yes." They shifted to the side of the staircase, giving the dog a clear path. Because Shadow was coming. Claws hit the wood below, fast, eager, gaining speed. Ernie murmured, "This is gonna be good." Letty covered her mouth. Fred just stared, deadpan. Shadow cleared the bottom step. Ben still hadn't moved. Sky whispered, "Ben." He didn't hear her. He didn't hear anything. He was too overwhelmed, too relieved, too terrified, too everything, frozen in the doorway, completely unaware that 100+ pounds of trained dog was about to hit him like a missile. Shadow launched off the last step like gravity was optional. A black blur. A missile with claws. 100+ pounds of trained muscle locked onto one target. Ben. Ernie didn't even flinch. "There it is." Letty gasped. Fred's eyes widened a millimeter, which, for Fred, was basically screaming. Ben still hadn't moved. He was frozen in the doorway, shoulders locked, jaw clenched, eyes glassy. He didn't hear the claws. He didn't hear the rumble. He didn't hear the missile closing in. Sky saw it happening in slow motion. Ben. Too late. Whump. Shadow hit him square between the shoulder blades with the force of a battering ram wrapped in fur. Ben didn't just fall. He detonated. His huge frame slammed into the floorboard so hard the entire hallway shook. The vibration shot up the wall like a shockwave. 3 framed pictures jumped on their hooks. One tilted. One rattled. One fell completely. Clack, thunk, clatter. It hit the floor right next to Ben's head. Ben flinched so hard he sputtered mid-breath. "What was that?" Shadow answered by landing on him full weight, sitting on Ben's ribs like a living sandbag. And then the tongue came out. Not just wet. Not just sloppy. Dripping. A long strand of drool stretched from Shadow's tongue to Ben's cheek before it even made contact. Ben saw it coming. He had just enough time to whisper, horrified. "Oh no." Splat. The lick hit him like a warm, damp tidal wave. Ben sputtered so violently he slapped the floor once in pure reflex. Why is it so wet? Shadow doubled down. Another lick, wetter, heavier, dripping down Ben's neck and soaking into his shirt. Another, across his jaw, leaving a literal streak of moisture that ran into his hairline. Another, straight up the side of his face, pushing his hair back like sloppy, organic gel. Ben gagged. Shadow, stop. He tried to push the dog off him. Big mistake. Shadow interpreted this as increase affection output immediately. He leaned in harder. Ben wheezed. No, not harder. Shadow accelerated. Fast, sloppy, enthusiastic licks, one after another, like he was trying to exfoliate Ben's entire soul. Ben tried to roll away, failed. Tried to sit up, Shadow pinned him harder. Tried to cover his face, Shadow licked his hands too. Ben sputtered, drowning in dog affection. I can't breathe, this is a biohazard. And then it happened. Ben opened his mouth to yell. Shadow caught him mid-word. The tongue went right across his open mouth. Ben froze. Sky screamed laughing. Letty wheezed. Ernie covered his mouth. Fred blinked like he'd just witnessed a war crime. Ben gagged. Oh no, no, you. Shadow, thrilled with himself, thumped his tail and went in for another. Ben slapped the floor again. I give up. Shadow delivered the double lick combo. One cheek. Then the other. Fast. Wet. Dripping. Ben's hair was officially soaked. His shirt was soaked. His neck was soaked. His dignity was gone. And then the fight left him. His arms dropped. His head fell back. His chest shook. And he laughed. A real one. A helpless one. A full body, breathless, broken open laugh that Shadow took as encouragement. Shadow licked him again. Ben choked on it and laughed harder. I can't win. Shadow curled up on top of him like a weighted blanket with a hydration problem. Sky wiped tears from her eyes. Letty was bent over the railing. Ernie was grinning into his coffee. Fred's lip twitched, twice. And Ben lay there, soaked, sputtering, defeated, laughing because he had officially lost every ounce of control he'd been clinging to. He was still on the floor, soaked, sputtering, hair plastered to his forehead, shirt clinging to him like he'd been dunked in a dog-shaped waterfall. Sky was laughing so hard she had tears streaming down her face, one hand clutching her ribs because it hurt, but she couldn't stop. Ben, oh my God, she gasped between breaths, you look awful. Ben wheezed. I know. Help me. Shadow had one massive paw planted on Ben's chest like he was pinning down a deer. He didn't even look at Ben. Because Sky was laughing. Sky was alive. Sky was making noise. Ben was irrelevant. Sky wiped her eyes, still laughing. Shadow, sweetheart, come here. Off. Shadow froze. His ears perked. His head lifted. And then, with zero hesitation, he stepped off Ben. Not around him. Not carefully. Right. Across. Him. A paw landed on Ben's ribs. Ben wheezed. Oof. Another paw pressed into his shoulder. Ben flinched. Ow, okay, watch the. Shadow did not watch anything. He planted his third paw on Ben's stomach. And the fourth paw? The fourth paw came down on a place no paw should ever land. Ben made a sound no human man should ever make. A strangled, high-pitched, breathless squeak that echoed off the hallway walls. Sky's laughter broke into a wheezing gasp. Oh no. Ben. Ernie and Fred both flinched so hard they jerked backward in perfect sync. Ernie's voice cracked. Oh hell no. Fred winced, hand half raised like he'd been physically struck. Jesus, Ben, my condolences. Letty slapped a hand over her mouth. Oh my God, did he just? Ben curled slightly, eyes watering, voice barely a whisper. He stepped on my future. Shadow, completely unbothered, used Ben's devastated body as a springboard and hopped the last foot to Sky's bedside. The moment he reached Sky, Shadow transformed. He lowered his head gently onto the mattress, tail swishing slow and soft. Sky stroked his ears, still breathless, still laughing in pain. Good boy, thank you. Shadow melted under her hand, eyes half closing. Sadie had been sitting beside Fred the entire time, watching the chaos with the calm, unimpressed patience of a queen observing her mate's dramatic nonsense. Fred glanced down at her. Sadie glanced up. Fred muttered, I didn't marry him. You did. Sadie blinked once, slow and regal, like she accepted this truth. Ben finally pushed himself upright, still cupping the area Shadow had obliterated, face pale, dignity somewhere in another room. Sky looked at him, soft, grateful, still laughing through the pain. Ben, thank you. For checking on me. Ben swallowed, voice higher than normal. Yeah. Of course I checked on you. Shadow thumped his tail proudly. Ben winced. I need a shower before we talk about anything serious. And maybe, ice. Letty, you need a mop. Ernie, and a towel. Fred, and a moment of silence. Sky laughed again, sharp and bright. Go clean up, Ben. I'm not going anywhere. Ben nodded and pushed himself upright again, still dripping. He took one step toward the bathroom. And immediately slid like he'd stepped onto a freshly waxed skating rink. He windmilled both arms. Why is the floor wet in every direction? Letty snorted. Shadow turned the hallway into a slip-and slide. Fred nodded. He's efficient. Ben inched his way down the hall, gripping the wall like it was the only thing keeping him alive. Every step made a wet squelch. Shadow trotted behind him, adding fresh paw prints. Ben pointed back. Stop adding moisture. Shadow wagged harder. Ben finally reached the bathroom, grabbed the frame like a lifeline, and hauled himself inside. The door shut. A beat later. Why is it still in my hair? How is it still wet? This is a biohazard. Sky laughed so hard she had to hold her ribs again. Letty sighed and looked at the hallway. Okay, this is a lot. Ernie set his coffee down. Grab towels. Fred muttered, I didn't sign up for janitorial duty, but he was already picking up a mop. They worked fast, towels, mops, wiping the walls, drying the floor. Shadow supervised proudly. By the time Ben emerged, the hallway was mostly dry and safe for human travel. Ben stepped out clean, damp, and wearing fresh clothes. His hair was pushed back, his face scrubbed pink, and he looked like a man who had fought God and lost but at least smelled better now. He exhaled. Okay. I'm clean. Okay, still sore. Letty pointed to the chair near Sky's bed. Sit before you fall again. Ben didn't argue. He eased himself into the chair with a soft groan, one hand instinctively guarding the area Shadow had stepped on earlier. Shadow perked up. He trotted over, tail wagging slow and smug. Ben eyed him. Don't you dare. Shadow leaned in. And gave him one tiny, precise lick right under the jaw. Just a little one. Barely there. A perfect, petty, you missed a spot. Ben stared at him, betrayed. Why? Letty choked. He waited until you were sitting. Fred nodded. Smart dog. Ben wiped the spot with his sleeve. I hate this dog. Shadow wagged once, satisfied. Ben sighed, defeated but dry. Okay. Now I'm clean. And that's when the radio crackled to life. They are here, on the road. They haven't found the way back. 10 vehicles, all loaded down. I'm heading back your way to help, said Rob. Ernie asked, Mike, where did you meet these guys? Mike replied, we came looking for you. They were in Custer. Said you were killed. Ernie said, damn it, I should have killed them when I had the chance. Mike asked, you know them? Ernie replied, yeah. They tried to kill me. Sky saved me. Mike muttered, shit, now I led them straight here. Ernie put a hand on his shoulder. You couldn't have known. Thanks for going to check on me. Rob's voice came over the radio. They've found it. They're coming now. I'm almost to the safety door. Rob rushed in, shutting the door behind him and locking the bolts. He hurried up to Ernie. I heard them talking. They're going to send the kids toward the gate. Ernie cursed. Damn it, of course they would. You get to the barn, we can't let innocent kids get hurt over stupidity. All hands, get to the barn. Mike, go home. Sky, head down. That's an order. Rob hesitated. Ernie? You sure? The vehicles came to a stop. Ernie replied, yes. Now go. Rob headed off toward the barn with the others. Fred, take them down now, Ernie ordered. Fred scanned his fingerprint in the barn. Once everyone was gathered, a large elevator opened. They climbed in, and the door closed seamlessly. Sky, Shadow, and Sadie rode down in the elevator to the shelter below Ernie's house. She immediately went to the computer and typed in Emergency Protocol 1, haste start. The doors began sealing. All facilities below ground were now locked and inaccessible. All the houses that were empty, from the people who had died, remained open, but any facility underneath them was sealed. All computers in the houses, the fingerprint readers, everything slid into walls or desks and became unreachable. Everyone was locked out of the system, even Ernie, so no one could force him to open or reveal anything. Sky was the only one with complete access, and they didn't even know about her. The system chimed. Emergency Protocol 1 completed. Sky watched the monitors, the cameras that stayed active. She could see Ernie. She just hoped they didn't kill him. Ernie, it's done, Sky said through the earpiece. Ernie gave a slight shake of his head to show he heard. Fred, we arrived. All accounted for. Ernie clicked a small button on the earpiece, it looked like a hearing aid, and left it on. He headed toward the gate. Sky, lower the trucks now. Sky typed in. Truck protocol, haste lower. Fred and the rest could hear the gears moving, almost silent. Sky over the facility comms, that's the trucks being lowered. Fred, 10-4, kid. Ben perked up at the sound of her voice. Where is he at? Fred shrugged. Wherever Ernie sent him. He was at his house, so I'm gonna say he has one of these there. The system chimed. Trucks lowered, complete. Sky, Ernie, it's done. Ernie nodded, took a breath, and opened the gate. Don stood with a bullhorn, about to yell. Ernie said, don't bother, and stepped back, allowing them to enter. The kids they were going to send forward in front of the vehicles lined up, scared.